What if a single construction project could quietly shape the future of hundreds of millions of people without firing a shot, crossing a border, or making a single threat? High in the Himalayas, China has approved a dam so extreme that it wouldn't just generate electricity, it could reshape rivers, destabilize an entire region, and hand Beijing a level of leverage no country has ever held before. What makes this even more unsettling is how little attention it's getting outside Asia. There's no dramatic announcement, no global emergency meeting, no countdown clock. But once you understand where this dam is going and what it could eventually control, it's hard to look away. And to understand why this plan is already making governments nervous, you have to start with something China built years ago that literally changed the planet. In 2012, China switched on the Three Gorges Dam, a concrete structure so large it redefined what modern engineering could achieve. Built across the Yangtze River at a cost of roughly $34 billion, it produces enough electricity to power an entire developed country on its own. But the most unsettling detail didn't come from economists or engineers, it came from scientists. By holding back an almost unimaginable volume of water in one place, the dam subtly altered Earth's mass distribution. The planet's rotation slowed just barely, but enough to make each day about 0.06 microseconds longer. You'd never feel it, and your phone clock would never notice. But on a geological scale, it's permanent. Long after cities erode and borders disappear, the planet will still be spinning differently because of one dam. For most countries, that would have been the final flex. A once-in-a-civilization achievement that never needed to be repeated. For China, it was just the baseline. Days after celebrating the Three Gorges anniversary, Beijing approved another project, one that wouldn't look bigger from space but would be far more aggressive in what it tries to control. And the place they chose makes all the difference. This new dam isn't going on the Yangtze. It's being built on a river most people have never heard of, flowing through one of the most isolated and extreme environments on Earth. High on the Tibetan plateau, the Yarlung Changpo cuts across glaciers, cliffs, and high-altitude valleys at an elevation higher than most mountain ranges on the planet. For hundreds of miles, the river moves east across Tibet, wide and deceptively calm. Then, without warning, it does something no other major river does. It slams into the Himalayas, wraps itself around a massive peak called Namcha Barwa, and makes a violent U-turn south toward India and Bangladesh, where it becomes the Brahmaputra. That single bend forces the river to drop more than 2,000 meters in a shockingly short distance. The result is the deepest canyon ever discovered on land, nearly 3 times deeper than the Grand Canyon when measured from peak to riverbed. It's so remote, so steep, and so dangerous that no human has ever successfully traveled the river from start to finish. For decades, geographers weren't even sure this river and the Brahmaputra were the same system. Some believed the elevation drop hid the tallest waterfall on Earth. Others thought the river vanished underground somewhere inside the mountains. The truth turned out to be more extreme. Raw, uninterrupted gravitational force tearing through the Himalayas. And that drop is exactly why this place matters. Because if someone intercepts the river before it falls, they don't need a massive wall to create power. Gravity does the work for them. But history shows that trying to control a river like this never ends quietly. The Great Bend exists because the ground here never stops moving. Beneath it, 2 tectonic plates have been colliding for tens of millions of years, forcing the Himalayas upward and twisting the river into its current path. This is one of the most seismically active regions on the planet. In 1950, an earthquake measuring 8.6 ripped through the eastern Himalayas, one of the strongest ever recorded on land. Entire hillsides collapsed. Landslides blocked the river, forming natural dams. When those dams failed days later, massive walls of water surged downstream, wiping out villages. That happened without any human infrastructure involved. But it gets worse. Since then, thousands of earthquakes have struck this same region. Some of the mountains near the Great Bend are still considered unstable, effectively waiting for the next major shock. Now imagine a similar quake after the dam is built, a landslide crashing into the reservoir, a tunnel collapsing deeper underground, a sudden blockage followed by an uncontrolled release. Any one of those failures would send floodwaters racing into India, then Bangladesh, with almost no warning. There's another problem engineers can't fully solve. Namche Bawa is still rising, in places by several centimeters every year. Over time, that movement can warp tunnels, stress supports, and create failure points no design can perfectly predict. This isn't about if the Earth moves again. It's about how much damage is acceptable when it does, and even if nothing breaks, the water itself could still cause chaos downstream. Once the river leaves China, its importance multiplies. As the Brahmaputra in India and the Jamuna in Bangladesh, it supports nearly 300 million people. Not just with drinking water, but with agriculture, fisheries, transportation, and livelihoods. Every year, the river carries enormous amounts of sediment downstream. That sediment rebuilds soil after floods, stabilizes riverbanks, and fertilizes farmland. Large dams interrupt that cycle. Sediment gets trapped upstream, riverbanks erode faster downstream, farmland slowly loses fertility, fish populations decline as migration routes are disrupted. These aren't sudden disasters, they're slow losses that compound year after year. For Bangladesh, the risk is existential. Much of the country is literally built from Himalayan sediment, deposited over thousands of years. Reduce that supply, and the land itself begins to disappear. Salt water pushes farther inland. Crops suffer. Millions feel the impact. China insists average water flow won't change. That may be technically true, but rivers aren't governed by averages. Timing matters. Hold water during a dry season, and shortages follow. Release too much at once, and flooding becomes inevitable. Climate change only magnifies the fear. Rainfall patterns are less predictable. Glaciers melt unevenly. In bad years, even small upstream changes matter far more than models suggest. That's why India and Bangladesh aren't panicking publicly, but they're watching closely, because once control exists upstream, leverage exists too. There is no binding water-sharing treaty between China, India, and Bangladesh for this river. No enforcement mechanism, no clear rules during a crisis. China announced the project unilaterally, without formal consultation. For India, that silence is almost as unsettling as the dam itself. But that's not all. The location adds another layer of tension. The site sits near a disputed border, close to Arunachal Pradesh, a region administered by India but claimed by China. The two countries have clashed here before, with deadly consequences. From New Delhi's perspective, this isn't just a power plant. It's permanent infrastructure near the frontier. Roads, transmission lines, and access that could double as strategic assets. Water doesn't need to be cut off to matter. The possibility alone changes negotiations. India responded by announcing its own downstream dam to protect against disruptions. But each new dam traps more sediment, pushing the burden farther downriver, onto Bangladesh. Energy security for one country becomes cumulative risk for another, so why keep pushing forward? From Beijing's perspective, the risk is calculated. China's electricity demand continues to rise. Coal still dominates its energy mix, clashing with climate goals and air quality pressures at home. Hydropower offers something other renewables can't: massive, constant output. No reliance on sunlight, no waiting for wind, just gravity operating day and night. Tibet holds nearly a third of China's untapped hydropower potential. It's sparsely populated, geographically extreme and tightly controlled. Strategically, it's the last place where projects of this scale are even possible. Leaving that energy unused looks to China like wasting a national advantage. The dam fits long-term goals: carbon neutrality, energy security, and regional influence without open confrontation. China has built its reputation on attempting what others won't. This project pushes that mindset further than ever, because if something goes wrong, the consequences won't stay in China. They'll move with the water. This project probably won't fail in a dramatic moment. If consequences come, they'll arrive quietly. Less sediment one year. Stranger floods the next, weaker harvests over time. By the time the damage is undeniable, the system will already be locked in. China's Himalayan megadam may become an engineering triumph or a quiet lesson in what happens when ambition collides with geology, climate, and geopolitics at once. The unsettling part is that both can be true. Once the water starts flowing through those tunnels, there's no easy way back. And the real question won't be whether China could build it, it'll be whether everyone downstream can live with what comes after. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you've made it this far.